PLEP advocacy in Kenya. And yes, just a little background is that I have been a PLEP researcher for many years. And I had to accelerate the uptake of PLEP, if possible, have PLEP access in Kenya available. And my work was to target how we may include PLEP in HIV as a HIV prevention tool in Kenya. And I chose my target strategically. I thought I should target policymakers. I thought I should target civil society. And I thought I should also target would-be users of PrEP. And in this case, I targeted HIV discordant couples because already we're having a demonstration study in Kenya where on HIV discordant couples. We have a proposed demonstration study for sex workers and men having sex with men. So those are the three groups that I decided to work on. And for the policymakers, one, I was to appraise what is the policy position for PrEP in Kenya. And I held discussions, dialogues, simple meetings, just face-to-face discussions with people in NASCOP, in NAC, and other key partners that I thought would influence policy in Kenya. And then, thank you, Mtando. Then, I realized that PLEP, as we were speaking then during my advocacy, was not a priority for the Kenyan government. There was no policy document that was suggesting that PLEP gonna be introduced in Kenya. And this is where the civil society came in, and I needed to build coalitions. I needed people that we could work with, and I needed people who would help me through advocacy processes, create demand, put on pressure with the policymakers, and pull the strings to make sure that PLEP becomes a policy issue in Kenya. And there was also a very strong disconnect between researchers, civil society, and policymakers. The kind of language researchers were using was quite hard, and everybody could complain that yes, you have done the research, you talk of efficacious, you talk of placebo, you talk of active arm. Many people could not understand, and ideally, especially for the civil society, it was very, very hard for them to buy into what researchers has come. Yet we knew that we had one of the best options that has been found to work in Kenya. So in my work, I had a meeting where I brought in researchers to come and talk with the civil society at their level. And this meeting was a breakthrough for me because those people who attended were mainly from the civil society, and mainly they had some advocacy activities, though oriented to other areas. And majority of them were pushing for treatment as prevention. And there were people that later on I followed up, and we teamed up together and came up with a technical working group that would push for PLEP access in Kenya. For the policymakers, it was very unorthodox in that in my work I learned that during that time there was a talk of a HIV prevention revolution in Kenya, and it was not very clear in our minds what was this, because the ideas were confined in a few serious or influential civil society members. It was confined in the policymakers' docket in the NASCO, and a few researchers knew about it. And I felt like I want to be a part of this because it's going to be a good thing. So I learned about it by going to one of our stakeholders, specifically AVAC, who have been very, very supportive. And I remember talking to one of my contacts there called Prince Bahati, and it's like I'm telling Bahati, I need your support for me to make PLEP a success in Kenya. And he says, Peter, I think you are short-sighted. We are having a bigger thing called PLEP revolution. And this will be holistic. We don't need to just talk about one. And this is where the idea of combination prevention, and I learned my lesson that in any advocacy, you need many fronts, not just one. And I needed to build my areas, and this is how I and then I asked Prince, so are you part of that coalition? He said, yes, I am. But he also told me, your boss, Dr. Nelly Mupo, is also a member of the technical working group for the HIV prevention. So I knew maybe I have some influence over my boss. I went and saw my boss, and it's like, she told me, oh, I was part of that technical working group, but I stopped attending their meetings. I think they no longer involve me. So I felt like I had a setback. But I told her, but Dr. Mugo, I think you can go to the meeting. She said, yes, I will go. And immediately she called, and she was told the next meeting is somewhere. So later on, it's a long story, but later on I learned that Dr. Moko was actually one of the key persons that reviewed the inclusion of the HIV discordant couple in the HIV prevention evolution roadmap. Then I was told the other person in that meeting is Dr. Bukusi. Dr. Bukusi is a co-PI, is a PI in another sister partners demonstration study in Kenya. And I talked to Dr. Bukusi. Dr. Bukusi also happens to be a board member forever. And I told her, you know, my project is about PrEP. So where are we, and are there some prospects that PrEP is going to be introduced in Kenya? I said, Michira, I sit in a technical working group. And yes, we have considerations. We are going to have a mega document that will be a support document that is called HIV Prevention Evolution. And I asked her, do you think PrEP is included? She said, Peter, if that document comes out, you will be able to see that there will be that. So ideally, I wanted to have this document as an advocate, to see it, but the process had started earlier on, and involvement was at a higher level than our level. And I heard that there was a meeting for the technical working group, and it was to discuss about the HIV prevention evolution. So I just went uninvited, and they were talking about the document, they were talking about reviews, they were telling people to please set up your inputs, and I have managed to talk to one of the people who were there, and he gave me a copy of the technical, the HIV prevention evolution, which I could also be able to review, and through other partners give back to the inputs. So in a nutshell, my advocacy brought up a few issues. There was some few gaps in PrEP access. We need to target the donors to have PrEP in Kenya. There are issues of licensure. There is the issue of generic drugs. There is a law in Kenya called the Anti-Counterfeit Bill, which makes all generic drugs counterfeits. And if they are counterfeits, they cannot be brought to Kenya. And if we remain with the original drugs for PrEP, it's not going to be accessible to Kenyans. So these are maybe possible advocacy areas. And then there is the issue of combination prevention. Where does PrEP fit in combination prevention? And in my consultation with sex workers, one major thing they brought out, and sex workers, HIV discordant couples, and men having sex with men, they brought up the issue of cost. They were saying, yes, we can take PrEP, but how much does it cost? It costs $80 for an updated dose for 1 month. Then the issue of side effects, they did not know. They were asking, we hear these ARVs, what are the side effects? The Kara sex workers were saying, no, if it is good, we are not going to use it. Thank you, Sidra. And then there was the issue of risk compensation. If you introduce PrEP as a new HIV prevention, will people ditch the condom? Thank you very much.